Welcome to Perfect-ish, where it's not about having perfect time management, but about perfecting your relationship with time. I'm your host, Callie Brigham, and every week we'll talk all things time and how to maximize it without burnout or guilt. Whether we're chatting with an expert or I'm sharing my 20 years of time management experience, you'll learn simple strategies to make every moment count. Here, it's all about getting close to perfect-ish. So let's synchronize our watches and dive in. Hi, friend. Okay, today I specifically literally put on a hat for you. So if you're watching on YouTube, you'll see it. If not, just trust me. The hat is for our family business. It's called ProClean. We are a restoration company here on the Gulf Coast. And by restoration company, we do a lot of things. We also do carpet cleaning and rug cleaning and tile cleaning. But the biggest part of what we do is in the emergency services. That's what the restoration is about. So think fire damage, mold remediation, and dun, 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 water damage. Water damage is probably the biggest part of what we do here. And we are placed in a pretty good spot for that here on the Gulf Coast. No one here prays for hurricanes. I can promise you that because we all live here. But when a hurricane happens or something major happens, or even just day-to-day life, there's a lot of water damage that happens residentially and commercially. That's where we come in. And here we come to save the day. So first, I want to tell you a little story that is going to lead to our topic today. When people think of water damage, they typically think of, again, maybe it's a hurricane or a storm, or they think of typically what happens when a supply line either breaks or bursts or comes loose. And a supply line would be your water line to your refrigerator or your washing machine or your dishwasher. And inevitably, what typically happens is not when you're standing right there and you can try to do something about it, but a lot of times it happens when you're not home and when you're on vacation. So I do want to say really quickly, this part's for free, that when you go on vacation, turn off the water to your house, which either you might have a supply line to the house in your garage somewhere, or more often than not, it's near the street. Just trust me on that. Again, this keeps our business going, but I don't want that to happen to you, okay? So when we think again of water damage, we think of some major thing that is apparent, that's a crisis, that's a catastrophe. But I want to tell you about this one particular water damage that happened at my own house. Yes, we've had the big ones, but we had this spot and it was on our middle floor. So where we live on the Gulf Coast, we have our houses are on stilts because of said hurricanes. So the bottom part is the garage. The middle part is where I'm recording this right now. It's my office, it's our kitchen, it's our living room. And then the top part of the house would be our bedrooms. So the middle floor is our living space. And right before our kitchen, kind of in a little hallway, we started to see this water damage and some water was leaking from the ceiling. And time after time after time, we would have plumbers come out, take a look at it. You have to tear out the ceiling. You've got to check and see where it is coming from. And we replaced a toilet upstairs. We thought maybe it was the shower pan. People were crawling up and around everywhere. And we would think that we would get it fixed, only to have some time go by and all of a sudden it was happening again. Well, one particular day, it really started. It's gushing out of the vent upstairs and the ceiling and all of that. And I'm thinking, I am done with this because it is disruptive every time it happens. And they have to cut out the ceiling, dry it out. You get the drill. If you've ever had anything like that happen. We finally called another plumber to come out. We have a lot of relationships with plumbers in the area. And this young man came out. His dad owns the company. And he looked at me and he said, I am going to figure this out. I'm going to be a detective. He was snaking cameras up and everywhere. He was determined to figure this thing out. I had a few suspicions. He had a few suspicions. Let me tell you what it ended up being that caused all of this damage over years. The kids' bathroom has a tub and a shower. Now, my kids typically take showers. They're at the age, they're teenagers. They typically take showers. Every once in a while, they would take a bath. but mostly showers. Well, this kind of couple weeks leading up to this water damage, both of my kids were super intense into their sports and they were taking a few more baths than normal. And they were doing the Epsom salts, the whole thing. So soaking in the bathtubs, filling it all the way up. You got the idea. Well, our little plumber detective finally realized there was a pin prick of a hole in the fiberglass in the tub. I mean, it looked like a little speck of dirt. It didn't even look like a hole. And that was the culprit. And again, when the kids would take a shower, a little bit of water would escape. But when they were taking a bath, we're talking about this tiny, tiny little hole created a tiny, tiny little leak that over time was creating all kinds of chaos in our house. And all it took was a tiny, tiny little seal of that fiberglass. We didn't have to replace the bathtub or the shower or anything. We just had to plug the hole. So, guess what we're going to talk about today? As I have my Pro Clean hat on today, we're going to talk about time leaks. I mean, we could even call them invisible time leaks because they really are nearly invisible to us, but they're not invisible to the results. Maybe you feel exhausted at the end of the day. You feel like you've been busy nonstop. But maybe somebody says, well, what did you do today? And you can't really even remember. Or when you say it out loud, it doesn't feel like that much. Well, just like with a water leak, the damage happens slowly and then all at once. We don't notice the small drips until we're dealing with major damage. Here's a stat that's going to blow your mind. The average person, and maybe I'm above average, text their phone 96 times a day. That's average person. That's once every 10 minutes during your waking hours. And I will be honest, even occasionally when I get up in the middle of the night, because I have to go to the bathroom, I might even check in the middle of the night. So even if one check-in only takes 30 seconds, that's 48 minutes a day just picking up and putting down your phone. And here's the kicker. Even if it's not just the 30 seconds, every time you switch tasks, your brain needs time to refocus. And research shows that it takes an average of 23 minutes and 15 seconds to refocus after an interruption. 23 minutes. All right, we're going to get into the top 3 types of time leaks. But before we do, the only time that I want some leaking water, this is going to be cheesy. And I'm sorry, but I got to do it. The only time that I want some leaking water is with our sponsor, Click and Grow. It really is the perfect transition, though, okay? Because it's not leaking time for my day as I'm keeping my herbs alive. If you've seen on social, or maybe you've heard it already, I come from a family of garden whisperers, I guess you could say. Both of my parents are amazing. I am not. I didn't get that gene. But now I look like it because I have my little Click and Grow garden. It sits on my windowsill. And right now I'm on my second little pod of cilantro. I have more basil than I could ever know what to do with, but many of you have given me good ideas. And they're these little pods that just click in, you pour water into it, and we'll just say it leaks upward. Okay. It travels upwards. It's hydroponic and it travels upwards and it keeps everything growing. It's on a timed light, you name it. It is so user friendly. And then I look super impressive. So if you also want to look impressive, you can click the link in the show notes, use the code PERFECTISH for your discount. And it's just going to make you feel like $1,000,000. And you're going to have time for other things because you don't have to weed or maintain or anything like that. All right. Let's get into the 3 types of leaks. And at least one of them is going to make you say, oh my word, you got me. That's me. Leak number 1, the swirl. The swirl is my mom calls this spinning your wheels. All right. So it could be the swirl or the spin. It's when you're doing everything and nothing at the same time. You're answering emails while doing laundry, while mentally planning dinner, while listening to your kid tell you about the day. You feel busy all day long, but you can't really point to the specific accomplishments. Anybody feel like they're spinning their wheels? I had one of our Perfect Dish method members say something along the lines of this to me. They said, I feel like I'm doing 10 things at once and completing none of them. And we got to talking, and she said, I thought I had focus problems, that I just couldn't stay on task. But really, what we discovered, it was a little bit more boundary problems. And let me explain. There's a little science. I like to nerd out. Here's why it doesn't work. And I will admit, I have really always thought that multitasking was the way until I started to come to the light. Multitasking makes us 40% less productive. Ugh, because your brain isn't multitasking. It's switching, it's rapidly switching between tasks, and each switch costs you mental energy. Okay, each switch costs you mental energy. So, how do we seal this up? This is a small one that leads to big damage. So, how do we seal it up? One of the ways that I love is to create, we'll call it a no leak hour, 1 hour each day. It's where you do exactly one thing. And if it's not on your phone, there's no phone. There's no multitasking. There's no quick check of something else. Treat this hour like your most important client meeting because it is. Guess who the client is? You. Now, if an hour feels like too much, 20 minutes, 25 minutes. Start there. The magic really isn't in the length of it. So I don't want you to major in the minors there. It's about protecting your attention from splitting in 12 different directions. You can use our other sponsor, Loop, put your Loop earplugs in, or just put your phone on Do Not Disturb, or like me. One of the ways that I do my no leak hour is that's when I go on my walk. And I can't do anything else. I can't unload the dishwasher. I can't say, oh, let me pay this bill really quickly. I can't say, oh, let me call this person because when I'm walking, I have a very limited amount of people that I will message, but I can be proactive. I can brainstorm. I can think. And yes, I might have a few different tasks, but I cannot think of anything else. So, one of the ways that I take my leaky hour and I seal it to be no leaks is when I go outside and I go for a walk. Maybe this is even in your car. And one of the things that I do teach women, especially entrepreneurs, is if they have some things that they need to accomplish, but they know once they walk in the door, I mean, all heck is going to break loose. I tell them that when you pull in, or maybe pull in at the end of your street, because if you pull into your driveway and everyone knows you're home, that could be a disaster. But pull in the end of your street and do not pass go, do not collect $200 until you finish the tasks that you have. Then you can walk in the door and really, really be present. Okay, speaking of doors, leak trap or leak type number two. I got ahead of myself. Leak type number two is the trap door. All right, that's what I was talking about, the door. Leak type number two. This is not easy to have this job, you guys. You got to talk and say the words right. Is the trap door. This happens in transitions. We talked about this a minute ago. In between tasks, you finish something, and then instead of moving on to the next thing, you fall through, you tumble through like Alice into the invisible trap door. You complete a work task and think, well, let me just quickly check Instagram. It is a dopamine hit too, by the way, and I totally get that. But we're just going to check it real quick, right? Well, 20 minutes later, 45 minutes later, we're wondering where time went. The trap door is especially dangerous because it happens when we're feeling accomplished. We just finished something. We deserve a little break, right? But these little micro breaks turn into major time drains. Now, let me be clear. I'm not saying that we can't take breaks and that we shouldn't have transitions. What I am saying is we should plan them out. We should have an awareness and we should have a proactive plan. So, how do we seal this trapdoor? We create a buffer bridge. It's a really great way to think about it. Can you picture that in your mind? A buffer bridge. It's a transition on purpose. Maybe it's just 2 to 3 minutes though. Stretching, getting water, filling up water, getting electrolytes if you want to, taking deep breaths. We just heard from Christy, and I've really been putting this into practice. Literally stopping myself and breathing, depending on what you need. Box breathing, nostril breathing, just breathe, just taking a couple breaths. Looking out the window. A lot of times, what I'll do is turn around in my chair, turn away from my computer. Give your brain a moment to reset without giving it access to infinite distractions. That's the key. One other thing you can do as well is you could create random alarms throughout your day, maybe 3 of them, but they have to be at weird times. So like 10:17 and 2:43 at 7:22. When the alarm goes off, ask yourself, "What am I doing right now? And is this what I intended to be doing?" This can catch a trap door in real time. The other thing is you do have to vary the times after a little bit, or else you're now becoming into a rhythm and it doesn't work as well. All right, so we have the first one, our swirling, our spinning. The second one is that trap door we fall through. And the third leak type is the ghost task loop. I know that sounds fancy, but I was going to call it the task loop. And then I thought, no, it's more of like a ghost task loop. These are the tiny little reoccurring tasks that seem quick, but they require constant mental maintenance. Okay, what would that be? Things like checking your calendar multiple times a day, scrolling through emails looking for something specific, looking for your keys in the same 3 places every day, thinking about what is for dinner. Okay, these tasks feel like they don't take any time individually, but what they do is they create a low level mental buzz. Your brain is always tracking these little loose ends. Here is a crazy stat too. Are you like me? Do you like these stats? The reason I like the stats is they're like a wake up call for me, like a slap in the face. The average person makes 35,000 decisions per day. That's one decision every 2.5 seconds through waking hours. Again, let alone when you wake up in the middle of the night. No wonder we're exhausted. So, how do we seal this loop, this ghost task loop? What we want to do is pre decide. We have maybe even some pre decided menus. For any decision that you're going to make more than once a week, make it once and then use that decision multiple times. It's almost like you can have some of these decisions on autopilot. Or when I was teaching my sales team, and I still do, one of the times I teach them, or one of the things I teach them, it's my policy. We just call it your policy. That way you don't have to overthink it. You don't have to question it. This is just my policy. When this happens, this is my policy. When this happens, this is my policy. Here are some policies or some actual lists. Maybe you have 5 go-to dinner options for busy nights. Again, this allows you on your Friday planning to go ahead and you don't have infinite dinner possibilities. You have 5. Now, you could always get creative if you're feeling like it, but you don't have to. 5 go-to dinner options, maybe 3 outfits that you know that you can rock it out. I will say the benefit from working from home is that I definitely wear 20% of my wardrobe 80% of the time. I definitely wear these jean shorts a lot, just saying, with different tops. Okay, 3 outfits that you know that work. A standard grocery list. Now, if you still go to the grocery store, it should be organized by store layout, right? So you've got the produce first, et cetera, or I actually learned that you should go kind of the opposite way if you want to. You'll go quicker. But anyways, or if you're like me and you have your app that you use for your grocery pickup, you've got your favorites. Maybe preset responses for common emails. We've talked about that before. You can I have a lot of keyboard shortcuts in my phone. Do the decision-making work once during a calm moment. And then you're going to reap the benefits all month long. Again, wardrobe, meals, where you put things, processes that happen more than once. And then in addition to this is if you will have designated homes for things that you're constantly looking for. The keys, they go in the same bowl every time, right? Or important papers go in the same folder. The phone charger stays in the same drawer. Stop making your brain work so hard. So that's the loop, and that's how we seal it. You got a little action step to do. Are you ready? I'm not going to call it homework. We're just going to call it action steps. This is what's going to create change because it's good to listen to stuff like this, but it's even better to start to actually implement it. So, what do? Pick your leakiest hour first. You don't have to fix everything at once. I know we want to, but we're not going to. All right. We're going to start small. And that's how we start strong. Identify your most slippery time block, which is the one that you always lose time. For a lot of people, it might be right after lunch when your energy dips. Maybe it's the transition time when the kids get home from school. Pick 1 hour and focus. And then step number 2 is you look back and you say, okay, where did that time go? What happened during that hour? Was it looking for stuff? Was it decisions that I needed to make? Was it that transition? And another stat that might surprise you, if you're losing just 15 minutes to invisible leaks every hour, that's 2 hours a day. 2 hours, 14 hours a week. That's a part-time job. That's just disappearing on you. So picking your leakiest hour, then looking back and seeing, okay, what was happening during that hour? And then number 3, pick one leak and seal it. So one of the 3 leak types that we talked about, commit to sealing it just for this week. Maybe it's creating your no leak hour for the swirl. Maybe it's setting up some buffer bridges. I hope that you all are breathing more. Maybe it is making some pre-decision menus. Some my policy is. So start small, be consistent, and then watch what happened. You're going to be amazed at how much time you actually have when you stop these invisible drains on your life. So you don't need more time. You've said it again. We'll say it 100 more times. You just need fewer leaks and a little bit more awareness. There's nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. You're not lazy. You don't even have some inability to manage time. You just have some drains that need plugging. That's all. So let's come in, let's be that plumber detective. Let's figure what that is. Start with just one leak, maybe putting your phone in another room during your most focused hour, creating that pre-decision menu for dinners, throw it into ChatGPT, setting up some buffer bridges, and then commit to it. And last thing I want to say is expect it to feel weird at first. Your brain is used to the leaky patterns. All right? Brains like patterns. And when you start plugging the holes, you might feel restless or like you're missing something. That's totally normal. That's just your brain adjusting to actually having more time and mental space. All right. If this resonates with you, I always want to know, tell me about your biggest time leak. Tag me on Instagram, send me a DM. What was your sneakiest little time thief? I read every single message, and your stories really not only mean a lot to me, but they always inspire future episodes too. Okay, so I will catch you next week. And until then, put your plumber detective hat on. Keep an eye on those sneaky little drips. And I know that your future self will thank you. Till next time, God bless. Thanks for tuning in to the Perfect-ish Time Management Podcast. Let's keep the fun going. Follow me on social and join our Facebook community. And if you're ready for some one-on-one time management coaching to reach the top of your game without burnout or guilt, I'd love to chat. Book a free interest call using the link in the show notes or send me a DM. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please leave a 5-star review and share it with a friend who's ready to master their time too. Remember, we're in this together, making real progress towards becoming perfect-ish.